Hello everyone. First of all, thank you very much for purchasing this product, 3D Portrait. In case you have any questions about the tool, don't hesitate to contact me through VideoHive. By the way, my name is Chris and I cooperated with Anton, also known as Mr. Gallery, to create 3D Portrait. So every support request, questions, suggestions on this item are redirected to me and I will be glad to help you. Now let's start with this very first short tutorial, which is on opening the project and importing an image. By the way, if you're an experienced After Effects user and very used to the program structure, like drawing masks, adjusting masks, 3D space, and so on, you might be interested in skipping tutorials number 1 to 3, because I will be explaining the tool in a slow, detailed way. And for you After Effects pros out there, it should be no problem to understand the tool by just watching tutorials 4 and 5. But for now, let's open our project. So I'll go to, once I have After Effects open, I'll go to File, Open Project, and from your downloads folder or wherever you saved the zip file and unpacked it, there's the 3D Portrait After Effects project. I'm gonna open it, and I don't know from which version on this happens. I think it's CS6 or something. It says this project must be converted to version 9 on Windows. The original file will be unchanged. You can ignore it and just click OK. And this is what 3D Portrait looks like when you first open it. So the first thing that we're gonna do is gonna import the image we are working with, which is the most important thing basically. And for this, I'm gonna open my O1 place image composition. In case you don't have this open on startup, which can happen depending on which After Effects version you're using, you can find it in the project window within the folder Edit Please, and just select Place Image or just double click on it and it's gonna open up. Now to import your image, you can do 3 things. You can do File, Import, File. You can hit Control or Command I on your keyboard, or you can simply double click within the clean space of the project window, which I'm gonna do. Double click, and there I'm gonna find my image which I'm gonna work with and hit Import. Next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drag and drop it into the timeline of O1 place image. Yeah, see, this image is very large, so I'll come down to my transform properties, find scale, and scale it down until it fits the canvas. Also, I can change the position, which I'm gonna do. I want the eyes to be a little bit more down, so to speak. Yeah, that's basically it for the first part. We open our project, imported our picture, and in the second part we're gonna have a look at the O2 adjust head composition, which is the composition where we gonna spend the most time working on while using 3D Portrait. And I'm looking forward to see you in part 2 of the tutorials. Like I said, for you After Effects pros, check out tutorials 4 and 5 first, maybe, if you want to. But I'll be happy to if you'd watch the first tutorials too. So see you then. Bye. Hi everyone, welcome back to the second part of the tutorials of 3D Portrait. In the first tutorial we covered how to import your image into the place image composition and scale it until it fits the canvas. After we've done that, we can simply switch over to the adjust head composition, which should be open. In case it's not opened, like I said, it depends on your After Effects version, whether those are opened or if the right ones are opened.
Yeah, like I said, in case the adjust head composition is not opened down here, you can simply come to the edit please folder and double click on O2 adjust head, which opens up the adjust head composition. You can see that your picture which you've placed is already there. You also see that there is a text box and info box and a small preview in the upper left corner of your canvas, which shows you a preview of the depth map, which we're going to use to create the 3D effect. Now, what is a depth map? A depth map is an image which tells you which parts of the image are closer to the camera and which parts of the image are further away from the camera. In this case, the white parts of the geometry of the nose, for example, are closer to the camera, so they are whiter in the image, and stuff like the cheek or the eyes or the upper head, they are further away from the camera, so they get darker. And this is what the whole thing is about. Basically, we're gonna adjust this depth map to get a nice 3D effect. So let's start doing that. First of all, we're gonna have a look at the timeline. The first two layers of the timeline are control layers, and we're gonna have a look at the choose preset layer first. I'm gonna left click on it and then go to its effect controls. In case you don't have that effect controls window open, which can happen depending on your interface settings. I'm gonna quickly simulate this by closing it. You can find it in the window menu, and then you have to click effect controls. This should bring up your effect controls window. Now the only thing that you can do with the effect controls of the choose presets layer is, as the name indicates, is choose your preset. Now what presets do we have? We have to take into consideration from which angle your portrait, your face was shot with a camera. For this picture, obviously front is fine because it was taken from the front. In case we had a picture that was shot from the side, I would, let's say from the side left, I would use the preset use side left checkbox and enable it. And now your info box says, oh no, multiple presets active, please choose only one preset at a time. So we have to not only enable the use side left, but we have to disable the use front as well, which gives you a white text color, which basically says, okay, now everything's fine, you're using the side left preset. In case we had a picture that was taken from a sort of 45 degrees angle, we would have to use one of the half left or half right presets. I'm gonna uncheck the use side left. Now no preset is active, and it says, oh no preset active, please choose preset from the choose presets layer effect controls. And once we enable use half right, it shows the half right preset. As I said, for this picture front view is fine, so I'm going to uncheck the use half right and check back our use front. And since we've chosen use front, when we have a look at our timeline, we need to use the set front masks. And when we left click on this, it's going to bring up built-in masks that represent the shape of your head, the eyes, the nose, the upper and the lower lips, and we're gonna adjust those masks. The set side left mask, the set side right, the set half left, and the set half right are not important since we've chosen the set front. And yeah, we have a little bit later we're gonna talk about the set front objects and the set back objects, but for now, first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust those masks to fit to my picture. I'm gonna click on a random point of any of those masks and then draw a rectangular selection around all those masks. And I want to scale them roughly into position. To do that, I'm going to right click and go to Mask, Shape Path, and select Free Transform Points, which gives me a bounding box for all those masks. I could also simply hold Control or Command key plus T, which gives me this bounding box as well. And now I'm going to scale them all together. Like I said, roughly. We're going to fine-tune those masks later. But for now, I'm going to scale those masks to roughly fit to my picture. As we're doing this, you can see that this picture up here updates on the fly. So you instantly get an impression of what is happening while we're changing those masks. So this is okay for now. I'm gonna hit enter to get rid of this bounding box and then adjust the mask paths. You can rotate them, you can scale them, you can add points, but I would always try to use the built-in points and those tangents, because those Bezier tangents are very suitable for those round shapes of eyes, of the form of the head, of the lips. Let me just quickly do that so you can see how you can change the overall shape of the head. And while I'm doing this, always take a look at the preview in the upper left. I'm gonna adjust all those masks, like I said, roughly into position. You can always draw rectangular selections to select multiple points, and hit Control or Command T to scale them all together, or use your arrow keys to move them pixel by pixel. Also use your arrow keys on the keyboard to move single points or multiple points, like I'm doing right now. Then I'm going to go to my nose and I'm trying to rebuild this round shapes of the nose. Then I'm going to take the eyes all together. They're already fitting pretty good, so I always, when you're adjusting the eyes, always try to use some surface around the actual eyes as well. And that gives me this nice depth information of my image. That's it for adjusting the mask. Simple as that. Now this built-in mask of the set front mask layer doesn't have a built-in mask for additional objects that are behind the face, like the ears and like the shoulders. For that reason, I created two other layers that are at the bottom of your timeline. Like I said, you can ignore the masks of the other preset. They won't affect anything right now. But you can go to the set back objects, and there the tooltip says you can draw up to 5 own masks in here. So we don't have to use built-in mask, but we can simply grab our pen tool, and while this layer is selected, we can draw a mask for the left shoulder, for example, and a mask for the right shoulder, and if you wanted to, as well for the ears, because they're behind the face as well. And notice what this does to our depth map. It added those nice shapes. We can work with those masks we created on the back objects layer. We can work as you're used to. You can maybe, for example, feather those masks. And watch our depth map again. While we're doing this, I'm going to feather out this mask because it has some depth of field here, the image. And I'm going to feather the right shoulder. I'm not going to feather the ears since those edges are pretty straight. And now here we have the problem that we don't see the upper corner of the ear, and this is where our layer controls depth map comes into play. I'm gonna left click on it, and in the effect controls of this layer we have some options, and the first one is simply show or hide the depth map preview, which is this window. I'm gonna uncheck it and the preview is gone. Now I can come back to the masks of the back objects and adjust them so we get the whole ear. Again, you don't have to be too precise. Come back to the controls depth map and enable it, the depth map preview again. We can also draw some front objects. That would be objects that are not behind the face but in front of the face, things that covering the face. If I had a hair strain, for example, covering the face at this point, let's just draw one. Let's say this is a hair strain. This is what happens to the depth map. In our controls depth map effect controls, we can now define how close or how far away those objects are from the camera. So set front objects are obviously closer to the camera. If this would be a hair strain, it had roughly the position in depth space of the nose. So it would be something like that. If I play one with the slider, it simply changes the brightness of this object. We don't actually have front objects, so we can globally disable them by unchecking the use front objects, which I'm gonna do. This keeps my masks though, so the moment I enable that, it's gonna be back there. And for our back objects, I have a slider too, and I can make those back objects brighter or darker, meaning that they are closer or farther away from the camera. And there's also a slider for the background depth, where you can set the distance of the background to the camera. I'm gonna cover that later in the third tutorial. It is for smoothing out the transition between the face and the background. Yeah, and that's it. We to come to the conclusion, we simply choose a preset, which is the front. We go to the corresponding layer, which is set front mask. We set our masks, and we draw some additional objects on the setback object mask, and then we adjusted those to get a nice result in this depth map. This result we're gonna use in the third tutorial to finally create our 3D effect. And I'm looking forward to it, and check out the third tutorial. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the third tutorial. This is the last tutorial on how to actually use 3D Portrait. There are 2 additional tutorials that cover examples for a side view and a half side view, because we're only in this first 3 tutorials we're only covering front. We're only using the front image. So I thought it might be useful to show you some examples on the other presets as well. But for now, we're gonna continue on working on this image. In the first tutorial, we placed our image in the place image composition. Then we switched over in the second tutorial to the adjust head composition, and by adjusting masks, we got this nice result, which is a depth map. Now we can switch over to our third and last, and maybe most important composition. This is our render output. Again, if you don't see this, this one right here, you can find it in the Edit Please folder of your project window. I'm gonna double click on it to open it up. First thing you'll notice is that there is a 3D camera and a controls layer. I'm gonna select my camera first and rotate. I'm using the Unified Camera tool, which is hotkey C on the keyboard. So if you get this cursor, now I'm pressing C. This gives me this camera icon on my mouse cursor. Now if I left click into the canvas and drag the mouse, this is gonna allow me to rotate on my 3D surface. If I left click and drag into the canvas, it's gonna pan the camera. If I right click and drag into the canvas, it's gonna dolly my camera, meaning that I'm moving further to the object or closer. I'm sorry, this one is closer. The other thing is further away. Right. Right, now I'm gonna position my camera right like this to see what's going on when we're going over to the controls layer. I'm gonna left click on the controls layer and go to its effect controls. Once again, if you don't see this one, you can find it on the window effect controls. There are only 2 options in here, so pretty simple. There's a resolution slider. You see that this effect uses particle-based deformation. So there's a resolution for this. It looks at the depth map and pushes maybe this polygon here, looks at the white parts of the depth map and is pushed out into space. If I lower the resolution, it looks like this. If I increase the resolution to maybe 200, takes a while, but then it looks like this. You can always you can also see where this effect has its limits. This is a 3D effect based on a 2D image, so you got to keep in mind that this has its limitations. You can't do a turntable around the head because there is no information on the back of the head in the image, of course. So the more I rotate around this picture, the more you can see parts where you don't have the information. So gotta stay right here. But before we animate our camera, I'm going to show you the depth slider. The depth slider is sort of a multiplier for your depth map effect. This is by default set to 50, which is pretty low. We have a close-up picture in here. So I could say we could easily go to 120. Now you see that this increases the effect dramatically. And now we're ready to animate our camera. So on frame 0 in the timeline, I'm gonna position my camera where I want the animation to start. I want something like this. Left side of the face, very close up. Then I'm gonna reveal the transform properties for my camera, which is point of interest is the point where the camera always is looking at. I'm gonna set a keyframe for this by clicking on the stopwatch, and I'm gonna set another keyframe for the position, which is the actual position of the camera, by clicking on that stopwatch, and then I go to maybe 3 seconds to frame 75, and on this frame I'm gonna left click into the canvas, rotate around the object, middle mouse button, drag into the canvas to pan my camera. And this is a very simple camera animation that only 2 keyframes, but you can see what's going on. We're rotating around the objects with the camera. I'm gonna set my resolution to quarter to preview this animation that we've done. To set my render region or my render length, while I'm on frame 75, I'm gonna hit N on my keyboard. This says After Effects that I only want the frames to render until frame 75. And now we can jump back to frame 0, and in the preview window we can hit play stop, or we can simply hit 0 on our numpad of the keyboard, which I'm gonna do. This is a really low resolution because for now I only want to see what my camera does, if the camera movement is okay. And let's say I like this one, which I actually do. We can now come to back to our controls, and actually I'm going to lower this effect a little bit because the nose is very strong right now. And now for our final render, all we've got to do is to up the resolution a little bit, maybe 250. That closes all the gaps, and we can now final render this. And this is it. Again, this is a massive effect, particle-based 3D deformation, but it gives you a strong effect. The nose covers parts of the cheek, the lips come out, the cheeks come out. So I would say for this 3 seconds you should calculate maybe 4 to 5 minutes of render time. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna pause the video, and then we can look at the result. So there we have it. This is the result. Really strong 3D effect. While we're turning around the head, it actually covers the ear. In the beginning, it covers the cheek, it covers the shirt, and it covers the background, which you would never get out of the 2D displacement within After Effects. I hope you like it. I hope you got an impression on how this works. Like I said before,
I added 2 additional tutorials where I very quickly jump through the whole process. I know that I use this first 3 tutorials in very detailed and very slowly to present the tool to you, and for the next 2 tutorials I'm gonna move a little bit quicker, and since you now know how this basically works, I just want to show you how quick and easy you can use it on several images. So yeah, if you're not starting to use this right now, I would really recommend you to watch the other 2 tutorials as well. On future updates I'm gonna include even more of them, so thank you once again for purchasing this product, and have fun with it. Hope you like it. Like I said, always feel free to add comments and contact me, and I'm gonna help you as soon as I can. So have fun. Bye bye for now. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first example tutorial. Unlike the first 3 tutorials, I'm gonna do this very quick to give you an expression how fast you can achieve a portrait animation with a 3D effect. I'm just gonna jump right in using this photo. So this photo is not really a close-up of the face, and we're going to keep that in mind when we adjusting the extrusion effect. Nevertheless, I'm going to just come to my 01 place image composition, drag and drop it in here, hit the scale on the keyboard, and just scale it up a little bit until we get what we want. And then we're going to go to adjust head. So this picture obviously was shot from the right side, but from the half right, with a kind of a 45 degrees angle. So this is the preset we're going to choose. The current active preset is the front preset. We're going to come to choose preset, and we're going to come to his effect controls and use the half right preset and uncheck the use front, which leaves us this preview image. And then we gotta go to the corresponding masks layer. So this is set half right mask, and you see instantly what gives us a couple of masks that we can now adjust. Like you've seen in the first tutorials, I always first of all move them and scale them all together, because if there's one thing that I've found out while playing around with this tool, that it is that every human face is basically the same, and the different looks just are just a result from small differences. But you can say that the distance between the eyes, the distance from the nose to the eyes to the lips are basically almost the same and all the time. Gonna grab my ear. I don't really see the lips, so I ignore them for now. I'm just gonna edit the nose, roughly take my eyes, always use a little bit surface around the eye, not only the eyeball itself but the lower and the upper lid as well, and some space around the eye. Now I've got the first thing set. I'm just gonna, for those of you who haven't watched the first 3 tutorials, it is important to know that you on the set mask layer, you need to use the built-in masks, which can be read right here. Please modify built-in masks here, and we're about to draw some additional masks for additional objects that are not part of the face and the head. And within those layers you can draw your own masks, which I'm going to do. I'm pretty happy with this result of my depth map, and I want to add some of the smoke in the hand, so I'm gonna come to my set front objects, because those are objects that are in front of the face. I'm gonna grab my pen tool and I'll draw some own masks in here, just roughly trying to recreate some of the smoke and the hand, everything that covers the face. Don't be too precise on this, it's gonna be smoothed anyway, just gives us this rough representation. I can select the set front objects mask and hit M 2 times quickly on the keyboard, which brings up some mask controls. I'm going to feather that out. And in my controls depth map, I set the front object's depth to a higher value, since it is closer to the camera than the chin, for example. So let's have a look at the chin and add some brightness to this. Now we can come and also draw some back objects, which are the objects that are behind the face. So same thing, but only different layer, which is set back objects masks, roughly creating the shoulders and the shirt and the neck. Leaves us with this. Hit M 2 times very fast on your keyboard, smooth it out, come to your control depth map and set the back object's depth to match the point where it where the transition is between the chin. And so if I have a value that is this bright or this dark, I'm trying to adjust this. So the goal is to always have smooth transitions between the objects, which gives us the best depth map. Yeah. Another thing for the front objects may be the hat. Let's try that out. Gives us this. Hit M 2 times, brings up the mask properties and feather it out. You can also, since we have only one color control for the masks, for all the foreground masks and all the background masks together in the control step map, there's another way to separate the tone that are on the same layer, the tones that are on the same layer, the tones from mask 1 and mask 2. We can simply edit the mask opacity. Gives us slightly different tone from the compared to the smoke. Here we go, this is our map. I'm gonna have a look at the render output now. I'm gonna select my camera and use the unified camera tool hotkey on your keyboard C. I'm gonna rotate around this and see that the depth map has an effect. Pushes out parts of the image, also pushes out some of the smoke, and here you can see where the picture has its limits. So to create a camera movement, first I'm gonna have a look on how far this is pushed out, but I think this is good. Maybe let's use 40, since the camera is pretty far away from the object. And the first keyframe, I'm gonna position the camera like this. Let's see if we up our resolution, if we can fill those gaps. Also, maybe around 200 would be our final resolution. Looks pretty good. Just a little bit more around the object. This should fill our gaps. Nice. So gonna lower my resolution. Come to my camera controls, to the transform controls, and hit a keyframe. By clicking on the stopwatch, go to second 4 maybe, which is 100 since we've got 25 FPS, and move the camera around for your end position. So I'm gonna go to quarter and make a quick RAM preview. Gonna pause the video. So here's a RAM preview of our camera movement, and the only thing left to do, we already checked the first image of our animation at a high resolution. Looks pretty clean. And now we're gonna come to our end image. There are small gaps, so this is where our picture comes to an end. This is animation. I'm gonna move the camera just a little bit more to the left. So this is our last keyframe. This is our first keyframe. Let's try to go a little bit more extreme. And there you go. First frame, last frame. And now we can do a full resolution preview. I'm gonna do this again, and I'm gonna pause the video again. Like I said before in the other tutorials, this is a massive effect, a real 3D surface that deforms, particle-based deformation. So calculate some render times. I'm gonna render this very quick, a 4 seconds animation. I'm gonna tell you how long this rendered on my machine. So gonna start the preview, and I'm gonna pause the video again. So after approximately 4 minutes of render time, it rendered out this one. Strong 3D effect for a 2D image. The only thing that I wanted to say earlier was this one parameter that I left out in the adjust head compositions controls. So basically in this composition we have created the depth map, and here we have a very dark background against a very bright foreground object, which creates some artifacts because the difference from the height of the background and the height of the smoke are nearly opposite, like black to white. What you can do to reduce this, you can just bring the background to the front, and for this reason I've added a control that is set background depth. So let's just bring the background a little bit more to the front, so we're losing this strong artifacts here. And also bring the front objects a little bit more to the back, and maybe feather them even more. like this. Gives you a much more smooth transition. So I'm gonna render this one as well. Pause the video again. So we're back 3 minutes later, and now we have this really smooth transition, no more artifacts, and it leaves us with this nice animation of the head. The nose covers the cheek, the smoke deforms, the cigarette and the head appear to be in the background. The chin moves relatively to the neck, and yeah, so yeah, 3 minutes for final render. Like I said, this is a massive effect, but I think 3 minutes is okay. I'm gonna show you another example in the next tutorial, so see you then. Hey everyone, welcome back to our final tutorial. In the tutorials part 1 to 3 we covered on how to work with a picture that was taken from the front. Then tutorial number 4 covered a picture that was taken from kind of a half right view. That leaves us with only one possibility left, which is a picture that was taken from the side. For that reason I imported this nice picture again, www.unsplash.com, nice pictures free for commercial use. And I'm just gonna jump right in. Drag and drop the picture to your place image composition, bring down the scale till it fits, and just reveal the whole head maybe. Now this was shot not only from the side, but it's nearly taken from more than the side, like closer to the back. But let's see if we can still use it. I'm pretty sure we can. So after importing this this picture into the place image, I'm just going over to the adjust head. Now we have our current preset front, which is the default. Choose preset layers, effect controls. You can change it there. Uncheck the preset use front, says no preset active. Check the front, and the side says multiple presets active, so uncheck the use front. Always make sure that you only have one selected here. So this is our use side left. We need the use set right, obviously. Now we can come to our corresponding set mask layer, which is the set side right masks, and there you can already see our masks. In this layer, like I said before, please modify built-in masks here. We need to modify those. You can add points, scale them and anything, but I'm just gonna do it really quick. I don't see the ear in this one, so for this one, let's just ignore our ear by, I can simply drag that out of the image. Have a look at the depth map while I'm doing this. So ear to the side, we don't use the ear. And now I'm gonna drag a rectangular selection, hit Ctrl T or Command T on your keyboard. And first of all, like I said before, what I always do is to move them all together till until they roughly fit to the head. I can see that this one was shot from a little bit more behind than the side, so the eye is closer to the edge here of the head. But nevertheless, I think we can use it. So hit enter and quickly detail the shapes until they fit. Watch our depth map in the upper left corner while we're doing this. Updates on the fly, gives you a representation of what we were doing. I'm gonna double click on the path of the eye and scale it down, and then I'm gonna come to my nose. So for the side view, the nose and the shape of the head at this point are nearly the same. You just need to use the nose for adjusting this nice shape here those nostrils, I don't know how to pronounce it. We can add some roundness for this. I mean this curve here. And then this part is covered by the head shape itself. Always try to use the tangents. You can add some points if you want to. Now, same thing with the mouth. Just gives us the lips layer, the upper and the lower lips layer just gives us some more detail, but the actual shape is defined by this mask here, the head mask. Just gonna bring that over to there, and this is this curve, and this is this shape, and there is this shape. Don't be too precise. Can say that enough, because it's blurred out a little bit. There you go. Leaves us with this. Let's check the eye, because I can barely see the eye in the image. Maybe we have to scale it. Yeah, I see those deformations there. Okay. Now that we have our head shape, we can add and play around with our front and back objects. Now, what are back objects? Back objects are objects that are behind the face, additional objects. And I'm gonna select the back objects mask. It says you can draw up to 5 own masks here, so just grab the pen tool and add some masks. This is for the part of the neck that we're seeing. We have this dark edge around here, so we can come to control depth map and set the back object's depth to a little bit more of a darker color. I'm gonna bring the background, make the background a little bit brighter to see those edges actually. And then we have our foreground, our front objects. I'm gonna draw some masks in there as well. So this is for hair and stuff. Okay, in the control depth map, let's bring them a little bit closer to the, I'm sorry, this is the one. Let's bring it a little bit closer to the camera. Maybe we get a strong effect of this. With the set front objects mask layer selected, I'm gonna hit M on my keyboard 2 times in a row, a little bit very fast, to bring up the mask controls. And I'm gonna blur them. I'm gonna blur the hair a little bit. And then I'm gonna draw second one, because this part of the hair is standing out a little bit more. Can't really see that, but I'm just gonna lower the opacity of the first mask a little bit, so we have this small shape here visible. And last thing that I'm gonna do is, again, in my controls depth map, I'm gonna adjust the background to match the color of the edges of the head. So let's see what this gives us in the render output. Okay, now select the camera, use the unified camera tool, which is hotkey C, and let's see what happens when we pan around the object. There you see a 3D effect. In the controls, you can bring it out a little bit more. And I think this one has to come out much more. This, I don't know what's it called. but I think you know what I mean. So I go back to my adjust head. So what we're gonna do now, we need to make this part brighter and this one a little bit darker. Now they're on the same layer, which is set front object mask, and in the control depth map we only have this one slider for the front objects to make that brighter. But like I did before, we can come to front objects mask and lower the mask of the hair itself a little bit more via the opacity. Let's see what this brings us. Boom, there you go. A little bit more of this structure where the hair comes together. And now I'm gonna do an animation. For the camera setup, I'll really set this to a really low resolution, and I'm gonna zoom in so the image covers this whole 3D canvas, and I'm gonna start from a view that is really behind the head until the image comes to a limit. And I'm gonna go to maybe 5 seconds. I'm sorry, first you need to set a keyframe. So camera animate, reveal the transform, and hit on the stopwatch and on the position, and again maybe frame 125, 5 seconds. Gonna rotate that around. Zoom in a little bit. So that now we can see the eye, which is covered through the 3D effect in the first frame. Now this looks a little bit weird. Let's see how that looks at a higher resolution, maybe 60. Bring the camera around a little bit more. There we go. First frame, last frame. Now, for a final render, I always recommend values for like I don't know, 150 to 300. Depends on how much you want to, how extreme the effect needs to be. If you pan around the object to an extreme, sorry, unify camera tool, like this, you see that this is a 3D effect which is used with a 2D image, so it has its limitations, and at some points you will get some gaps in here, but you can always try to go to a higher resolution like 300, and those gaps will be filled to a certain point. Go back to the preview one, so 60 maybe. First frame, last frame, and let's check our final resolution there, the last frame. There you go. Got a little bit of the gaps around here, so trying not to go that extreme. Cool. So this can be our animation for now, and I'm gonna go to the first frame. I'm sorry. Now I'm gonna hit N on my keyboard to set the render region end, and I'm gonna do a quick preview for you guys. So this is gonna render about 3 to 4 minutes, so I'm gonna pause the video. Gonna go to my preview here and hit play, and I'm gonna pause the video. Hi there, so we're back after rendering a final version of this one, full resolution RAM preview. Gives us this result, approximately 4 minutes render, and yeah, that's it for the tutorial. So we covered all the angles that are possible. There are we covered the front, the side right, and the right view, but there is a side left and there's half left there, of course. So don't be afraid to use them. If you have any questions concerning 3D portrait, don't hesitate to contact me through VideoHive, like I said in the beginning. And now enjoy working with this tool, and in the future I'm gonna do some updates and improve the tool. So looking forward to continue working on you, maybe together with you. If you have any suggestions, don't hesitate to contact me, like I said. Thank you once again for purchasing, and have fun. Bye bye.